This thief snatched an item from an elderly man, sending him crashing to the ground, then sped away on his bicycle, thinking he could get away with it. But a few young men nearby saw everything. Without a moment's hesitation, they took off after him. He wasn't fast enough. Within seconds, one of them caught up and knocked him clean off his bike with a swift, decisive kick. They held him down until police arrived. And just like that, the would-be thief's little escape ended in handcuffs. A young couple had just settled into their car for a romantic evening when danger suddenly struck. Out of nowhere, a man on a bicycle sped toward them, waving a gun and demanding money and a phone. But instead of panicking, the boyfriend acted with incredible composure. With one swift motion, he opened the car door and lunged at the armed robber, determined to protect his girlfriend at all costs. A violent struggle erupted as the two men fought, while the terrified girlfriend's cries for help echoed through the street. Hearing the commotion, nearby residents rushed in. Within moments, a crowd surrounded the scene, and together they overpowered the would-be robber. Two thugs on a motorbike thought they had found an easy target. They blocked a man riding his motorbike, waving a gun and demanding he hand it over. But they were far too confident, believing they were the only ones armed. They were wrong. In a split second, the intended victim pulled out his own weapon and fought back. Shots rang out, and chaos erupted. The robbers, realizing their mistake, fled in panic. The elderly gentleman remained remarkably elegant, even when staring down the barrel of a gun. Calm, confident, and composed, he carried himself with the grace of a true gentleman. When danger struck, he didn't panic. He acted. With swift, decisive movements, he stood between the armed robber and his family, protecting them without fear. The desperate thief, trembling and uncertain, found himself overpowered not by force, but by the sheer presence and poise of the man before him. Sao Paulo, Brazil. A chilling wave of violent motorcycle thefts has plunged several areas of the city into fear and chaos. In recent weeks, numerous clashes have erupted between armed thieves and security forces. Most of these incidents have taken place in the city's eastern zone, where organized motorcycle theft rings are spreading terror at an alarming rate. Their sheer recklessness and brutality have turned ordinary streets into battlegrounds. The thief spotted a young woman standing alone in front of her house. Thinking she was an easy target, he charged forward to snatch her belongings. But he couldn't have been more wrong. Fueled by courage and instinct, the woman fought back with everything she had, scratching, punching, and striking with both hands like a wild lioness protecting her home. Her relentless kicks and furious blows caught the robber completely off guard. Even so, the thief stubbornly tried to persist, until a passerby rushed in to help. Only then did he finally flee, realizing too late that he'd chosen the wrong victim. This armed thief thought it would be an easy score. He pointed a gun at the driver, threatened him, and dragged him out of the car to steal it. But within seconds, his confidence vanished. The man he'd just tried to rob wasn't an ordinary driver. He was an undercover police officer. Before the robber could even process his mistake, the officer drew his weapon and took control of the situation, turning what was supposed to be a robbery into an arrest. What began as a normal day at the store erupted into chaos when two young armed men burst in, aiming their guns directly at the elderly cashier behind the counter. But before they could even make a move, the old man reacted with lightning speed, pulling his gun and firing in self-defense. The robbers, completely stunned by the unexpected resistance, stumbled and crawled their way out of the shop in sheer panic. In mere seconds, their bold robbery turned into a desperate escape. What started as a quiet day at a small family-run store suddenly turned into a fight for survival. A man in a white cap walked in, pretending to be a customer. But moments later, he revealed his true intentions, brandishing a gun and announcing a robbery. He ordered everyone to stay calm and demanded the cash. Then came a split-second act of bravery. As the robber paused to reload, the family's young son lunged forward, snatching the weapon from his hands. Instantly, the entire family rushed in, tackling the intruder and forcing him to the ground. Together, they overpowered the armed man and held him until police arrived. The video captures a tense and gripping scene. A woman becomes the target of two ruthless robbers. Her husband, still limping from a recent shin bone fracture, was in no condition to help. When the thieves returned, demanding the keys to their car and home, she made a bold choice. She hid the keys and stood her ground. Alone and unarmed, she faced them with astonishing courage, fighting back fiercely and forcing the attackers to flee empty-handed. A woman had just stepped out of the store when 5 to 6 men suddenly stormed in. The security guard tried desperately to close the door, but it was too late. They were armed robbers, one of them wielding a massive hammer. Then, in the midst of chaos, a 70-year-old man saw the danger and acted without hesitation. With calm precision and courage, he drew his gun and confronted the robbers head-on. The moment they saw the weapon, panic broke out. The once bold criminals trampled over each other trying to escape. These two guys thought stealing a few beers would. What began as a routine shift quickly turned chaotic when a man pretending to be a customer suddenly lunged at the cashier, snatching a handful of cash. But the quick-thinking cashier reacted with lightning speed, stepping back just in time to dodge his grasp. Desperate, the thief vaulted over the counter, grabbing her in a frantic struggle for the money. Then, out of nowhere, a male employee rushed in to defend her, followed by a mysterious figure in black who struck with perfect timing. A failed heist, a fearless team, and a spectacular ending he'll never forget. A new report from Sao Paulo exposes a disturbing reality. Even off-duty police officers are no longer safe. Surveillance footage captured one such terrifying moment. A police couple, Luis Gonzaga and his wife, ambushed and robbed of their motorcycle in broad daylight. Afterward, they admitted that not carrying their firearms that day may have saved their lives, fearing that any attempt to resist could have turned deadly. According to recent data, the number of police officers injured or killed while off duty has surged by 43% between 2022 and 2025, a statistic that has alarmed law enforcement unions. Experts warn that many officers are forced to take second jobs to make ends meet, often requiring them to remain armed, inadvertently turning them into targets for armed criminals. Living in a constant state of alert, even out of uniform, is now taking a severe toll on their mental health. A gang of 6 robbers attempted to steal 2 Ducati motorbikes, each worth about £25,000, from a London showroom. The chaos began when 2 men stormed into the Inmoto store, quickly joined by the rest of the group. But before they could make their getaway, staff member Paul Reed noticed what was happening and stepped in to confront them. A robbery that began in terror ended with an unforgettable act of bravery. As a masked robber stormed into the store, waving a gun and shouting threats, terrified bystanders scattered in fear, all except one. An elderly man, frail and slow to walk, refused to run. With fearless determination, he stood his ground and charged straight at the thief. What followed was a fierce struggle, the old man grappling with the robber, refusing to surrender. Though outmatched in strength, he fought with the heart of a lion, embodying the spirit of true courage. This man had been watching closely, sensing something was off. The moment the robbers jumped out of their vehicle, ready to strike, he was already prepared. Without a moment's hesitation, he drew his gun and fired in self-defense. The sudden counterattack left the criminals completely stunned, panic setting in as they scrambled to escape, running for their lives. His sharp instincts and calm under pressure turned what could have been a tragedy into a swift and decisive act of survival. It was prison, where some new friends were more than ready to greet him. Two men in a white car were moments away from leaving when two robbers suddenly appeared, yanking the door open and pointing a gun. They dragged the man in the white shirt out, intending to steal the vehicle. But they picked the wrong target. The victim fought back fiercely, drawing his own gun and firing in self-defense. Chaos erupted. The robbers scattered in panic. These two robbers thought they could get away with anything, bold, reckless, and untouchable. But what they didn't know was that the police had been silently watching them for weeks, tracking every move, every target. Then came the perfect moment. Just as the criminals set their plan in motion, officers closed in, swift, precise, unstoppable. A dramatic armed robbery turned into a scene of pure heroism when teamwork made all the difference. The robbers stormed in, weapon drawn, eyes filled with menace, ready to intimidate and control. But what he didn't expect was resistance, let alone unity. In a matter of seconds, the team acted as one, moving fast, silent, and precise. They overpowered him, stripped him of his weapon, and pinned him to the ground. This robber thought he had control, pointing a gun straight at his target. But in a split second, everything flipped. The young man lunged forward, seized the robber's arm, and slammed him hard to the ground. With sheer strength and precision, he ripped the weapon away and pinned the criminal to the pavement. The man in white was quietly standing on the sidewalk when a man in blue suddenly rushed up to him. Within seconds, the situation turned dangerous. The attacker pulled out a gun and threatened to rob him of his money. In a moment like this, the safest choice is to stay calm, cooperate, and seek help. But before the robber could act further, a nearby hero intervened, opening fire to stop the armed criminal. Startled, the robber fled the scene. It began as a reckless and violent robbery, from looting a store to attacking those who tried to stop them. Armed with knives, the thugs chased a male employee, restrained a female staff member, and snatched everything of value in sight. But their rampage didn't end there. When a female police officer arrived to intervene, the criminals turned their rage on her, dragging her out of her vehicle and hijacking the patrol car in a desperate bid to flee. Just as it seemed they might escape, fate and courage intervened. Nearby citizens, witnessing the chaos, rushed forward without hesitation. Working together with the officer, they managed to overpower the robbers and end the ordeal. What began as an act of violence ended as a victory for bravery, unity, and justice. This thief thought he could stroll away with the loot, until karma ordered a round. In a swift twist of fate, his getaway went sideways, and he wound up flat on his face in a puddle of spilled beer. This guy spotted a car on the street, and greed instantly took over. He circled the vehicle, scanning for witnesses. Then, as soon as the coast was clear, he pulled out a tool and began unlocking the door. But what he didn't expect was the owner's lightning-fast reaction. Two swift, powerful kicks, like goals in a championship final, sent the thief crashing to the ground. Defeated and humiliated, he crawled away in pain, never daring to look back. Four men were walking leisurely down the street when a motorbike suddenly pulled up beside them. The rider, disguised as a delivery worker with a bag on his back, pulled out a gun and began robbing them of their money and valuables. The victims froze, hesitant and terrified, unable to fight back. But just as the robber seemed to have full control, a man from across the street sprang into action. Without hesitation, he charged toward the armed assailant. The robber tried to resist but quickly lost control, abandoning his motorbike and fleeing in panic. One man's courage turned fear into strength and stopped a crime before it could go any further. After being robbed one too many times, this homeowner decided enough was enough. Instead of calling it quits, he turned his frustration into creativity and set up a clever trap for the repeat offender. When the thief tried to climb the fence again, things didn't go quite as planned. Let's just say he got a shocking surprise that sent him scrambling faster than ever before. And the best part? The homeowner's laugh at the end says it all. Pure, well-deserved satisfaction. These two thugs thought it would be an easy score. Guns in hand, confidence sky high. They cornered three young men on the street, ready to rob them without mercy. But in the blink of an eye, everything flipped. The victims fought back with fury, and suddenly, the so-called tough guys were crawling, stumbling, and running for their lives. A shocking and dramatic robbery involving a pregnant woman who was ambushed by two violent assailants. They attacked her, demanding her car keys and money. Just when the situation seemed hopeless, a mysterious superhero appeared, swiftly pulling the victim to safety and hurling objects at the attackers. Witnesses described the man's courage, speed, and precision as almost superhuman. Despite being outnumbered and facing three armed robbers, he stood his ground and fought back fiercely, ultimately forcing them to retreat. The incident left bystanders stunned, wondering whether this was merely an act of extraordinary bravery or something truly beyond human. Two armed robbers thought they had everything planned, but their heist at a Boost Mobile store in Paterson, New Jersey, went spectacularly wrong. The store manager, Tommy Torres, managed to slip out through the back in a bold escape, then quickly locked both the front and rear entrances, trapping the gunman inside. Panic erupted. The criminals smashed windows and shouted for help as Torres repeatedly called the police. Despite their desperate attempts to break free, their fate was sealed. A quiet evening turned into a scene straight out of an action movie when two armed robbers stormed into a couple's home, guns raised, and tried to drag the boyfriend outside. But their plan fell apart instantly, because his girlfriend wasn't about to let that happen. With nerves of steel, she stepped forward, machine gun in hand, ready to defend the man she loved. This robber thought it would be an easy day, waving his gun, barking threats, and demanding money from innocent people. But he was about to learn a painful lesson in justice. In a flash of courage and unity, the group turned the tables. They distracted him, closed in from all sides, and before he knew it, he was on the ground, helpless. Together, these brave citizens stood firm against fear. They didn't run. They fought back, and in the end, justice prevailed. A thief tried to sneak up to a package left on someone's front porch. He picked it up casually, pretending it was his, and began walking away as if nothing had happened. But just then, police moved in at the perfect moment, catching him red-handed before he could even take a few steps. Package thefts have been rising rapidly across the US, but this time, karma and law enforcement struck fast.
Sit down. Turn around. On the ground.
A bold, broad daylight robbery unfolded at a cosmetics store in Pennsylvania, where two men rushed inside, frantically grabbing products off the shelves in a desperate attempt to flee before anyone could stop them. But little did they know, the police were already one step ahead. In a perfectly timed operation, officers swooped in within moments, taking the robbers down before they could even reach the door. A harrowing moment when two men in orange shirts attempted to rob a couple of their motorbike at gunpoint. Sensing imminent danger, the couple quickly devised a plan. The man positioned himself as a shield, giving his girlfriend a chance to move to safety. But when the robbers pressed forward, he had no choice but to confront the nearest attacker head-on. In a burst of courage and instinct, he fought back fiercely, forcing the gunman off balance. The second assailant, shaken by the unexpected resistance, fled the scene in panic. The thug stormed in waving his gun, threatening both the cashier and a customer, barking demands for cash. The tension in the room was electric, but one man stayed calm. He pretended to obey, moving slowly, eyes locked on the robber, waiting for the perfect moment. And when that moment came, he struck with lightning speed. In a single explosive move, he tackled the gunman, slammed him to the floor. Two clueless thieves decided to turn their brilliant plan into action, disguising themselves with what looked like the worst homemade masks ever. The mission seemed simple: break into the store, grab the goods, and vanish like pros. But reality had other plans. Before they could even make it out the door, every clumsy move of their perfect heist was caught in crystal-clear detail by high-definition security cameras. Every stumble, every awkward glance, all immortalized as evidence. And instead of waking up beside their stolen loot, the next morning they found themselves waking up next to brand-new cellmates. He walked in looking like any other customer, calm, casual, pretending to browse. But beneath the act, he had one goal: steal the jewelry. In a sudden burst of chaos, he smashed the glass display and reached in to grab the goods. But what he didn't expect was the shop owner's lightning-fast reaction. With one smooth motion, the owner drew his gun and fired a warning shot, a sound that froze the thief in pure terror. The moment this woman sensed danger, she didn't freeze. She acted. With lightning-fast instincts, she hurled her handbag into the house, a move so unexpected that it stunned the approaching robbers. Caught off guard and confused, the criminals hesitated. And that's when her family burst out of the house, rallying around her in a powerful show of unity.